I'll be brief. I'll be very respectful of your time. Obviously, should be an opening act instead of the headliners have already gone. But so my name is Brett Rogers. I'm running for Attorney General. Don't have any paraphernalia with me tonight, but Brett Rogers for AG.com. Then Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo me, you'll get to where you need to be. Bob Ferguson has done some great damage to the state. I think we can all pretty much agree on that. I would like to bring the rule of law back to Washington. The recognition that the law-abiding are not second-class citizens. There's a lot of work that can be done. The AG's position can serve as a check on the governor, which can be good in the situation of McKenna and Gregoire. It could be bad if the situations are reversed. And if there are like-minded people in the AG's position and the governor's spot, there can either be great damage done, which is being done now, or we have an opportunity to really do some good things between a like-minded attorney general, like-minded governor. We can turn things around the state, I'm convinced, very quickly. So I didn't really prepare a stump speech because I wasn't sure how much time I would have. I was just wanting to introduce myself. Do I have time for a question or two?
You have about 4 minutes more. I mean, you have 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes of speech and then 3 minutes of time. You can use it all for Q&A if you want.
I'm happy to take some questions.
Can you tell us about your background?
Sure. I should have started with that, and I apologize for that. I've got 20 years of law enforcement experience. I worked for the Seattle Police Department for 18 years. I worked patrol the bulk of my career. Worked my way up to lieutenant. While with SPD, I worked for 4 years in internal investigations, so I'm very passionate about accountability, both individual and government. I also led the audit and policy section of the department during the time that the department was being sued by the U.S. Department of Justice. So I was there as the consent decree was being enacted. I went to law school while working full-time with SPD. I worked all 3 shifts during the course of my law school career. Passed the bar. I've been an attorney for 11 years. I had a small solo practice in Lake Stevens. I put that aside to run for AG, and I'm looking forward to serving. Sure.
Have you thought about replacing the at-will positions that are Ferguson? That's my usual question.
Absolutely. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many there are in the AG's office. I know that some of the assistants there are at will.
Yeah.
But there again, I can't, like the other candidates are saying, can't let everybody go at the same time. But the people who want to play partisan politics rather than looking out for the people of the state, they're going to be shown the door.
Good.
I could give you
Behind
one.
you.
Thank you.
Sure, I had kind of a trick question for you. I'll be open that it's a trick question. So as a lawyer, I have difficulties with the governor's take on a sanctuary state and this concept of sanctuary cities. I was wondering if you had an opinion of that, and I would include as well the candidate Colt's sanctuary city. And I had problems with the gun initiative as well, but I'm not quite sure how doing sanctuary cities based on the gun initiative works as well. So I was wondering if you had a viewpoint on either of those.
Absolutely. That's a great question. I appreciate it. I'm opposed to sanctuary cities for illegal immigration. Being a rule of law candidate, kind of by extension, have to explain myself a little bit. I have a little bit of heartburn over any type of sanctuary city because the laws, we're all supposed to, we make the laws, we agree to them, we're supposed to follow them. That being said, when it comes to firearms, the right to keep and bear arms, the right to defend yourself, is not given to us by the government. We have that independent of the government. The Second Amendment simply recognizes that. It does not grant that right to us. So because of that, because of the unique nature of that, I can see that position, I can understand that position and live with it. However, so like I said though, being kind of a rule of law person, I've got a little bit of heartburn with kind of ignoring laws you don't like. Sir.
So I have a very specific policy as it relates to the Attorney General's office. I've noticed that The AG outsources a lot of legal work to several law firms in Washington State. Dominantly, those law firms are the same ones you donate a lot of money to as campaign. Is there a policy that you would take overall to maybe reform that, or have you looked at that issue?
So this is the first time I've ever run for office, so I'm not a career politician, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
So there are things that I have not considered yet, and
Okay.
and the learning experience, that to me seems problematic, seems
Okay.
a host of ethical considerations.
Okay.
What I would like to see is decentralizing some of the work as much as we can, kind of like there's talk of Washington DC, maybe getting some of the departments outside of DC, outside of the swamp. I would love to get as much work as we can out of Seattle and Olympia.
I have a question.
Sure.
How do you view the role as far as defending the state of Washington if perhaps the state of Washington has a law that you disagree with? So let's say that the legislature decides to pass an income tax, and then they want to challenge that in court, and then it might be the responsibility of the Attorney General's office to defend a law on the books in Washington. How do you feel about that?
So I think it's fairly settled that income taxes in Washington are unconstitutional, and so I would definitely fight that. One of my slogans is that I want to represent the people of the state, not the government bureaucracy. Now, I need to unpack that a little bit because as Attorney General, I would be defending various state agencies and boards when they're sued. However, I would never lose sight of the fact that we, the people, are, with our consent, we have a government, and that the people of the state are the true the true source of power and the people that I really would work for. I can draw, I think it's easier for me right now to draw an analogy with everything that's going on with guns, and that something that is clearly unconstitutional, how do you defend the indefensible? If the people's rights are being infringed, as I would see my role as restoring those rights rather than defending the infringement.